In this video, I'm talking about the Flight Feather BFS reel. Is it the lightest BFS reel on the planet? And is it any good? That's what I'm looking to find out. It's the FF01. This is their very first reel. NACO did send me this reel for free to try it out and sort of share my opinions. And so, you know, as normal, I'll do my quick unboxing, but I'm also going to get out and fish. And as you probably saw during the intro, I've already taken this out on the water, and I still haven't unboxed it and seen it. I did take it out the day after filming this. I'll wrap up the video with my first impressions, so stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss that. So I know that this is sort of a little bit of a crazy looking reel. So let's just open this up here. Okay. Well, got the booklet. And that gives you an idea of sort of what it looks like. Do a little bit more with that booklet as we go through. Nice little velvet feeling bag. It would have been nice if I would have had it facing the handle stuck. There we go. So, I mean, right off the bat, either these looks are something that you're into, or they're probably not. I don't think it's one that's going to grow on you. You know, they want attention, right? They want to get noticed. They don't want to sort of blend in with everything else out there. So, you know, looking it over, I mean, it looks really nice. You know, I look at the finishes. A lot of like feather details on here. They really took the feather part of this to heart. You know, they've got some of the details here on the just the ring that goes around the shaft. You can see little feather details here on the button. Ooh, that's a very solid feeling reel. It feels very solid, very positive. I don't know if we have any other little Easter eggs. So these sort of look a little bit like wings and feathers. Actually, this even almost looks like a feather here. Look, so see here, and the way they've done this. These are very unique. Ooh, ooh. I like the way these feel. It's cool because they've got this little bit of blue see-through that ties in with the rest, but they're a little tacky, right? So they don't slip. But these little ridges and everything, I think this is really going to make this feel good when you're when you're fishing with it. It's like 8.2 to 1 gear ratio. Not sure how well that shows up on the GoPro screen. Kind of feels really good in the hand. I can't complain with the way it feels. It does feel light. Let's see. Here's the little switch to open this up. And what happens? Oh, and it just rotates right off, just like a lot of them. So these brakes are magnetic. They should be removable magnets. Yep, so they just lift right out. Interesting. They are marked polarity wise as well. So this is something that the Abu reels did that I liked. But you see these little dots in here. And they have them installed in alternating polarity. What should happen is when we adjust this wheel, you can see how adjusting that wheel spins the brakes in and out. So it just puts them closer to the spool. Now the spool with the bearing on it is only 4 grams. This is the lightest production spool out there. It's a 3.4 gram spool. This is the kind of spool that you would pay $70 to $100 for to put in, say, the Aldebaran or any other aftermarket reel. You know, a 3 gram spool is really, I mean, that's about the lightest you're going to get out there. Interesting to me is this one is solid. You know, there are a lot of the lightweight spools that are honeycombed and really shaved out. This one is solid, and I mean, it doesn't feel like anything. It's something else. They did modify the design here. So originally when this came out, you could not remove this pin and therefore easily change the bearing. My eyes aren't great, but my understanding is that has now been changed. You know, I'm not huge into modifying reels, but this one supposedly has been updated so that you can do that now. This is where the braking takes place. So they've added, what's the reel material or the spool material? Yeah, so it's an aluminum alloy spool, and then with the braking, they've added this extra little plate out here on the edge. Wow. The shaft on this is titanium. So that's part of how they're getting the weight that light is they actually have a titanium shaft on it. The frame itself is magnesium. So this is, again, very similar to the Aldebaran, which I should grab off the shelf behind me. Also uses a magnesium frame. It's strong and light. They even get into talking about their grain structure that, you know, essentially means that the casting process is much more controlled, and you get a tighter grain structure means that it's a stronger material. And so they're touting their grain structure is better than most brands. You know, honestly, this spool is so light, it's almost feels like it's hard to get it back in there. I like a lot of the design cues on this. Honestly, I don't love the orange and blue. Those colors work well together. I think maybe if they would have got rid of the speckles, maybe if they would have got rid of this orange point. I like the orange accents. I don't know, it's a little garish for me. If I look inside, so you can actually see the main gear here. There is some lubrication on that. I can see some lubrication on the worm gear here, but it feels smooth. I mean, it sounds pretty smooth. There's a sticker in Chinese, and I sort of want to know what that says. So for the first time use, it is recommended to start with 24 grids. Does that mean 24? Does that mean set the brakes to 24? Now, my eyes are getting bad, and so I picked this up recently, and we're going to put it to use and see if it helps. Oh, and we're 12, 18, 24. So I'm thinking what that means is we need to start this on 24. Actually picked up the magnifying glass for changing hooks on lures and stuff like that. Some of these really small hooks are hard for me to see the split rings these days. I tell you, I see no blemishes in the finish. It feels really nice. There is no clicking in the spool tension adjustment, but you can hear the side to side. There's a little micro clicking in the drag adjustment, but there is no clicking drag either. Some people say it allows them to be smoother. I think in this case they were going for the lightest reel. Paul Gaskell over at Fishing Discoveries, he mentions that the main reason probably to do that is just to save weight. Some people obviously don't like them. I mean, the Daiwa Alphas Air is still one of the best-selling bait finesse reels. It does not have a drag clicker. It's one of the reasons I don't own it anymore. You know, we'll see how it fishes. It's going to be tough for me to give up some of the other reels that I have in favor of this on a regular basis because it doesn't have the drag clicker. Now, granted, the Aldebaran has a little bit of line on it. I don't know how much that adds. It's a 10-gram difference, but you can feel it. I mean, you can feel the difference. The Aldebaran has been fished hard. Look at that. I don't know that anybody is complaining about a 135-gram reel weighing too much. You can see, though, where their target was. I mean, to me, there are a lot of similarities here in the way these reels are designed. And definitely know who they were targeting. So this is an 11+1 bearing reel. The bearings in the Aldebaran handle are, you know, obviously superior there. Can you hear that? You know, the brake dial moves fairly well. Kind of looks a little cheap plasticky, but it's not too bad. So here's the Aldebaran that's been beat to heck and back. I mean, it's 18 months of use. I mean, I have cleaned it a little bit, but you can see like the handles are even dirty right now because it's been fished. I mean, it's pretty well beat up. This is what you hear. So, you know, there could be a little bit of opportunity there. Inches per turn should be around with 8.2 gear ratio and with the spool diameter of 30 millimeters. The inches per turn on retrieve should be about 2 feet. So I'm going to put about 40, maybe 45 yards on here. What's their stated spool capacity? It's interesting. I don't see spool capacity anywhere. Looking at the design, it'll probably hold close to 100 yards if you wanted it to. I'll put around, I usually put 50 on when I'm just going to be fishing with it. You know, if I'm not trying to like get max distance you know, something that I know I'm going to try to be casting down 1 gram or less, I might throw 40-ish on it. You know, it's one thing to be able to cast a lure, but you need to be able to fish it, right? So if you cast a lure even 30 or 40 feet and you hook a big fish, well, you need to have a little bit more line on there so that you don't spool yourself just on the initial run. So I'll probably go ahead and just put 50 yards on this, and we'll see how it is. So I'm going to head out right now, fish this. You know, I've come to the conclusion that I don't come to this lake to go fishing anymore. I come out here to test gear because there's just, I'm rarely hugely successful. I don't usually catch any big fish out here. So from here on out, this is just going to be known as the test lake. You know, I don't give up any of my spots, even if they're mediocre. So I'm just calling this the test lake now. So we're going to test out the Flight Feather and a few different lures and stuff that I've never thrown here because, you know, who knows? Maybe eventually I'll catch something nice. Feather, I've got it on the Kistler 4X, and I'm using it's an AliExpress version of the Jackal Flap Penny. It's around 2 grams. So getting some test casting in done. Getting some test casting in. Okay, so first cast with the Flight Feather. I'm not sure where it went. Oh, okay. Actually didn't cast too bad. Sort of lost it, but it went pretty well straight on the settings they recommended. That's pretty nice. This is a 2 gram lure. Not bad at all. It's going even longer as we each cast. It's kind of nice to actually get a recommendation of, like, oh, there we go. It's kind of nice to get a recommendation of where to start, and it's even nicer that that recommendation appears to have been good. Because whether I'm making a little flip cast, whether I'm trying to put a little bit of extra on it like that one, get it real nice and low below these branches, and so far it all seems to work. Just dawned on me I better check the drag. I mean, that's getting out there a good ways for a little 2 gram lure. We know it's about 2 feet per turn, so let's okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was like 50 feet, 48 feet, I think. Just, you know, as we're working it in, I haven't changed any settings. I basically set it the way they told me to set it from their factory recommendations. Just fairly high on the brakes. I think the brakes are set at 24, I think was the setting. For the first time use, it is recommended to start with 24 grids. And I think the highest setting is 36, so little backhanded cast goes almost all the way across this little inlet here, which is, again, that was just a little backhanded flip cast, and it was probably 40 some feet as well with a 2 gram lure. Weird because I can't even really tell where the line is. It's so embedded down in here. Okay, so that backlash was one of the worst ones I've ever had. So we're gonna go out to where it's a little bit more wide open and dial this in a little bit more. I'm also gonna switch up lures. So I've got a pretty cool one coming next. So, because we broke off the leader and been all the other challenges, going to topwater, there's this cool dragonfly lure from Moondog Bait Company. I just got them, never tried it, but figure I'll try it out here. And it kind of just made sense because, you know, it's Flight Feather reel and flying dragonfly lure. And that jig head looks big, but it's actually a floating jig head. So this should be a floating lure. Oh, something hit it. Something hit it already. That was cool. I see something looking at it. Looks like a little bluegill though. Might have been what hit it the first time because he sort of missed it. Cool. This is pretty cool how this plastic floats though. That jig head really holds it up there. That's better. So I had I'd loosened the spool tension a little bit on this, just to see if we could get a little bit more distance. You know, I basically just had it set where I'd set it right off the bat, which is basically just, there's some little bluegill hitting at this, which is cool. I'd like to catch one. But anyway, the spool tension was set just where the side-to-side play, sort of like you'd set a lot of the Daiwa reels and some of the CDM reels. And I read somewhere that a large percentage of a bass's diet in the late summer is dragonflies, so I really thought this lure could be a lot of fun. No. Dun, 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 dun. I'm not going to get it, I don't think. Seems like it's gradually getting looser. It could just be gradually digging into the wood too. Yep, nothing. Well, I'm going to stick with the moondog dragonflies because at least they're getting a few bites and some interest, but they don't come over logs at the surface very well. The hook just digs right in. So there was a bass right there. I know he's seen me. I'm going to lay money on he's never seen a dragonfly lure. So what will he do when he sees the dragonfly? He seemed more interested in me than the dragonfly. I was pretty sure I had those brakes on 24 to begin with, but they were now down lower. They ended up getting moved a little bit just when I was doing all the other stuff. Now let's get out of the sun. See if we can't manage to land a fish here in the shade somewhere. Well, I think today kind of sums up why I don't come out here to go fishing very often. Saw a lot of fishermen. Nobody said they were catching anything. I saw a lot of little fish. So, but did get some testing done on the Flight Feather. And I mean, it's pretty good. If I draw the conclusion that they were aiming for the Aldebaran, I think they've done a really good job. With the super light spool, yeah, the brakes are a little touchy. I had one of my worst backlashes ever. Granted, it wasn't a great cast, but I didn't feel like it was worthy of, you know, a 15-minute backlash that I had to cut out. But again, that spool is almost half the weight of most other reels out there at 3.4 grams. So performance-wise is good. I don't love that virtually nothing clicks on it, just the drag star adjustment, but none of the other adjustment knobs click. In some ways, it's a little bit more infinitely adjustable. I don't know, it feels a little hard too. You know, my eyes aren't the greatest, so I can't tell how much I'm moving the brake dial at this point. You know, for 170, I think it's a heck of a good reel. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to test the drag today, but We'll do that at some point soon.